Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. Each Corrupted Clip episode is less than 30 minutes long, providing you with the perfect bite-sized content to get you through the day.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt Podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt Podcast.
Desmond Thomas Doss was a United States combat medic during World War II. He was a Seventh-day Adventist, which meant that he didn't believe in violence and chose not to bear arms even to defend himself. Desmond Doss was one of the first conscientious objectors to be awarded the Medal of Honor. He is also the inspiration behind the movie Hacksaw Ridge. Desmond Thomas Doss was born in Lynchburg, Virginia on February 7, 1919. He was the second of three children, with an older sister and a younger brother. Desmond's parents were William Thomas Doss and Bertha Oliver Doss. William had been a soldier in World War I. He worked as a carpenter and struggled with World War I PTSD. Being raised in the Seventh-day Adventist church, the family worshipped on Saturdays, believed in nonviolence and vegetarianism.
Desmond worked at a shipyard in 1941 when he was drafted. He was offered a military deferment from the draft due to shipyard work and his religion, but he chose to join the war. In April 1942, Desmond joined the United States Army. He refused to carry a weapon, stating that his Bible and faith in God were all that he needed. The man had standards. So Desmond had an out, and yet he chose not to take it. At this point in his life, I feel like he wanted to contribute to the war, but just in his own way.
Yeah, I think you're right there, that he wanted to help people and not harm anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Known as a conscientious objector, Desmond would be one of 70,000 people whose religious beliefs made them opposed to World War II. Of the 70,000 people, only 25,000 men chose to serve in a non-combat role, like a medic or a chaplain. Desmond met a woman in church, and on August 17, 1942, he married Dorothy Pauline Shutt. Dorothy gave Desmond a Bible to carry with him overseas. In the Bible, she had written,
"If we do not meet another time on this earth, we have the assurance of a happy meeting place in heaven. May God in his mercy grant us both a place there."
At basic training, the other soldiers in Desmond's unit felt that he was a liability to them. He wouldn't pick up a weapon, and they assumed he couldn't or wouldn't have their backs in battle. He was threatened by other soldiers saying,
"Doss, when we get into combat, I'll make sure you don't come back alive."
How terrifying that had to be for him.
Right?
He's just trying to do what he thinks is right. His commanding officers attempted to have Desmond discharged on mental illness, but he wouldn't sign off on the agreement, stating that it was his religion and not a mental illness.
In a way, I see the Army's perspective here. So before, they gave him a deferment, partly based on religion, whether that was just to postpone or completely exempt him, but he pursued involvement in the war. And then fast track, a year later, he won't pick up a weapon because of his religion. The commanding officers were totally done with him at this point.
They were, but the problem also was that he had requested to be a medic, and they put him in the Army infantry instead.
Okay, so he wanted to be a medic. These officers were like, nope, you got to hold a gun. You got to go into this section. You're not going to be a medic, basically.
He was sent to the wrong area of the military, basically.
On purpose.
I don't know. It's during World War II. You're talking 1942. I think that the U.S. had a lot of men going into their service. It probably was really hard to make sure that everybody ended up where they should.
Well, even if he was sent to the medic area, let's say, for instance, they eventually train them on weapons, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. He would eventually had to hold a rifle at some point. So they would have gotten around to the same reason that they did here.
His unit might have had his back a little bit more, though, because it would have been more expected. It would have been expected that he wouldn't pick up a gun.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, that's understandable. He was also almost court-martialed for refusing to hold a rifle. Desmond never wavered. He believed it was his duty to serve God and his country, but in that order. In November 1944, Desmond was almost denied to leave to see his younger brother Harold off for the U.S. Navy.
Don't worry about Harold. He survived the war, had 2 children, and lived until 2007.
Very impressive, Harold. Seventh-day Adventists consider Saturday the seventh day and Sabbath. It's a day used for rest and worship. During his time in the military, Desmond would spend his Saturdays worshiping and reading his Bible. During basic training, the other soldiers would throw boots at Desmond and ridicule him. Before long, though, they realized what an asset he was to their unit.
In July 1944, Desmond shipped out as a combat medic to Guam as part of the 307th Infantry Regiment, 77th Infantry Division. Desmond would run into active fire to save a fallen soldier, which earned him respect pretty quickly in his unit. He would be awarded a Bronze Star for treating wounded men under fire. After Guam, the 307th fought in Leyte, and Desmond would earn his second Bronze Star. In late April 1945, the 307th arrived on the island of Okinawa, Japan. Known as Hacksaw Ridge by U.S. troops, or the Medea Escarpment to Japanese troops, this hilled area around the Uraso Castle ruins would become a battlefield. The Japanese forces were headquartered at the Shuri Castle in Okinawa. The distance by car from the Uraso Castle to the Shuri Castle would only be about 10 minutes today. To gain traction in the war, U.S. forces had to take over Hacksaw Ridge first, then move to Shuri Castle. The Uraso Castle was the largest castle on the island. It was built between 1265 to 1274. Today, only ruins remain as it was severely damaged during World War II. The U.S. troops would call the cliff up to the castle Hacksaw Ridge because it resembled the notches in a saw. And this cliff was 400 feet high, with caves and trenches that the Japanese had been using for years. Today, the area is covered in trees, but in 1945, it was a vertical cliff of just limestone rock. Nets were used to climb the top 35-foot overhang.
I'm trying to picture these men climbing up this cliff, 400 feet high, almost 90-degree angle, knowing that there were Japanese up there, hiding in the trenches, waiting for them. There was no kind of shelter for them when they got up there. It's like, who would be the first guy? Who would be the first guy to offer themselves, pop up there, and you would immediately get shot down at?
Yeah. And the Japanese knew the area very well because it was their home.
It's their territory.
So, yeah, you've got U.S. troops coming in that have no idea. We don't know the cave system. There's men that have never been up there before, and it was just horrible. Thousands of men died.
On May 2nd, the 307th took the top of Hacksaw Ridge under heavy gunfire. Desmond became one of the few able-bodied men on top of the mountain. It's estimated that 1,000 to 2,500 Americans died, and almost double the amount of Japanese men died in the fight for Hacksaw Ridge. Desmond removed any markings that he was a medic. The Japanese were targeting medics so that fallen soldiers had no medical help. Desmond rescued the injured day after day, always going into the battle unarmed. On May 5th, the order to retreat was given, but Desmond refused to leave. There were approximately 75 people stuck on the cliff that were too injured to get down. For over 12 hours, Desmond carried the injured to the edge of the cliff. Then, using a knot and a litter, he lowered the men to safety below. He saved all 75 men before climbing down the cliff himself. Somewhere along the way, the Bible in Desmond's pocket fell out and was lost on Hacksaw Ridge.
Later, a Japanese soldier remembered Desmond from the war. According to this soldier, he had Desmond in his sight, but his gun jammed. The battle ended on May 6, 1945, when the Japanese chose to retreat from Hacksaw Ridge. The battle on the island continued, though, and Desmond would be struck multiple times on May 21st. First, his leg and hip were hit by a grenade. Desmond treated himself and kept going. He waited 5 hours for medics to reach him. When they did, they put him on a stretcher, but passed another injured soldier on the way to the medic tent. Desmond rolled off the stretcher and made the other medics take the injured soldier first. He continued walking to the medic tent and was then struck in the arm by a sniper, which shattered his arm. Again, Desmond treated himself, this time using a rifle as a splint.
He finally handled a gun.
Yeah, I think he touched it enough just to make a splint and then kept going.
Yeah. There was some confusion on Desmond's whereabouts.
Probably because he declined treatment and then walked himself to the medic's tent.
And his family was notified by the Army that he was dead. It made the front page paper in Lynchburg, Virginia, but Desmond was able to send a letter to his parents letting them know he was alive. Due to his injuries, Desmond would be evacuated back to the United States and had surgery to remove the bullet from his arm. On October 12, 1945, Desmond received the Congressional Medal of Honor from President Truman. This is the nation's highest award for bravery and courage under fire. For reference, of the 16 million men in the military during World War II, only 431 received the honor.
In total, Desmond would receive his Medal of Honor, a bronze star with 1 oak leaf, signifying that he had received 2 bronze stars, a Purple Heart with 2 oak leaves, signifying that he received 3 Purple Hearts, and the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal with 3 bronze stars and beachhead arrowhead, signifying he served in 4 campaigns, including an amphibious landing under combat conditions. The Good Conduct Medal, the American Defense Campaign, and the Presidential Unit Citation was awarded to the 307th for their heroism at Hacksaw Ridge. He achieved all of this while never hurting another human and staying true to his faith. Desmond's fellow soldiers searched extensively for the Bible he had lost on Hacksaw Ridge. They found it, and later they would mail it to him at home.
I just know that with his story, he brought people to their faith. That's not even what he was trying to do. He wanted to serve his country, and his selflessness drew people towards God without him even trying.
Yeah, I think that he was definitely on the right track with he's serving God first and then his nation. He stuck to his faith, and I think everything else just kind of fell into place for him. Even if you believe that Japanese soldier that said his gun jammed, you know, there was something at work there keeping him safe while he helped all of these other people. There was also a rumor that he would help anyone, that he had helped Japanese soldiers as well. Anybody that was up there that was injured, he didn't care. He saw an injured soldier as an injured soldier, but I couldn't find anything to validate if that story was true or not. So I'm not sure if he did save anyone. Based on his character, I feel like he would have.
Well, according, and I'll probably talk about this a little bit later, according to Karen, who is our other friend, she is a very historic buff. Like, she loves history and reads, and she does quite a bit of research and digs herself into that kind of stuff. She was saying that he did lower the Japanese soldiers down, but they killed them anyways.
Oh, no.
So, like, Desmond would lower them down, but once they realized that they were Japanese, they didn't save them because they were like, well, we're not gonna save these ones. But yeah, so Desmond had his heart in it, but it was just...
Geez, you would have thought they could have at least been prisoners of war or something, that we could have at least helped them.
Right. Take them back, put them on trial or whatever they wanted to do.
Not kill them when they get to the bottom of the cliff.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Can you imagine Desmond just coming down after all of that and be like, okay, I sent a couple Japanese down here. Where are they, or what happened to them?
Right? Because, he was risking his life to get those men down as well.
Yeah.
My gosh.
They didn't make it.
I'm not impressed with that. I think they should have been prisoners of war.
Yeah.
I think we should have helped them.
Yeah, agreed.
Release them back to their families after the war. The movie Hacksaw Ridge was released in 2016 and was directed by Mel Gibson. It's a fine movie, but definitely not factual. The movie shows Desmond hitting his brother with a brick and almost killing him as a child, which was completely dramatized. They also seem to forget that Desmond had a sister. Like, she was nowhere in that movie.
She wasn't. There's no sister.
No.
Did he have a brick then? Did he hit his brother with a brick, or was it something else?
Nope.
Nothing like that?
No, he didn't hit his brother at all.
Nothing?
They were pacifist even as children.
Oh my God.
It was completely added in to the movie, just trying to show that this was leading him to his faith.
I see. Okay.
But in real life, they were pacifists. He wasn't going to hit his brother with anything.
Yeah.
Also, holy moly, this movie was graphic. That war scene was intense. I also had no idea they used flamethrowers in World War II.
I know, that was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they show him like clearing out the caves with flamethrowers, and I was literally on my laptop like researching, did they actually have flamethrowers? And they did.
Which was smart.
That's true.
That was smart to do, like through the trenches or the caves or whatever. I mean, if you don't want to go in those caves, just send the flames.
Well, and you can clearly see how we damaged the castle even more by doing stuff like that. According to interviews, Mel Gibson left out the part about Desmond being hit multiple times and allowing others to get help before him because he believed that fact was just too unbelievable. The movie was also filmed in Australia, and it appears to be this huge area of land that's Hacksaw Ridge, but in reality it was only 150 foot that 2,000 plus American men died at, over a 150-foot stretch of land. Hands down, though, my favorite part of the movie was the real-life photos and interviews at the end. The captain cried in his interview and he discussed how he basically hazed Desmond during basic training, and then Desmond saved his life. And then Desmond discussing how he prayed to just help one more person. And then as that person was down the cliff, he would stop and just be like, thank you, let me help one more person, until everybody was saved. That is amazing.
That part in the movie gave me chills. Like, just like every time he brought somebody and lowered them down, he would just say one more and then go back and get one more. Oh, I just feel like crying, and I did cry, but it was just so emotional. This guy is so selfless, and he's just helping. Like, he feels like this was what he was meant to do, and it was what he was meant to do. It's just so rewarding.
And he said one more time, 75 times, and helped those people.
You know, saying those words gave him courage. I don't know. I feel like it fueled him.
Yep.
And Andrew Garfield, the actor who plays Desmond, need I say more? I mean, the boy deserves so many awards in movie biz. He can act. That boy can act.
He can. Was this before Spider-Man or after Spider-Man?
So when did this movie come out?
2016.
This was after Spider-Man.
Okay, so he had a little fame already behind him.
At least the first one. Yeah, the first one and the second one. Yeah, oh yeah, he had fame behind him. But he got a lot of flack in Spider-Man. People didn't care for that Spider-Man. I simply loved it.
I know you're going to be disappointed in me right now, but I have not seen a Spider-Man since Tobey Maguire. I'm sorry.
Andrew Garfield, check out it's The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. There's only 2 of those. Okay. There's only 2 of them. You've got to watch those. And then you can go into Tom Holland Spider-Man. That's more of getting into the Avengers type thing, Marvel world. So if you don't want to dive into that, you don't have to, but his are good as well. But cough, cough, spoiler alert. The third movie of the Tom Holland ones, they all 3 get together. So Tobey Maguire,
I remember that happening. Yes.
Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. And that is worth it if you do invest in all of those movies, just so you can see that part.
I just don't watch a whole lot of television. That's where things go wrong.
Because you're just researching so much true crime.
Yes. I watched Hacksaw Ridge, and I wish I had not.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. When I got to that part of the war scene, it startled me. Watching this movie, as again, as I mentioned Karen before, she recommended it to me. She was telling me this story. And I was like, what? Like, I've never heard this. Why haven't I heard this? And the story was just overall very moving. When it got to that war part, it kind of caught me by surprise, and I was startled instantly. If you don't have a strong stomach, just stick to this podcast.
I would agree. It's gnarly.
And I expected nothing less from Mel Gibson, though. He directed Passion of the Christ. Have you seen Passion of the Christ?
Yep.
That was harsh.
I've seen that. It was really hard to watch.
Yeah. Very raw, very gory. But even though it's all just a little too much, I admire the direction where Mel takes these movies because it's so real. He wants the audience to feel like we were actually there. And I feel like he portrayed that to a T.
Yeah, I agree. When they come over, when the unit finally gets up Hacksaw Ridge and it's just everybody running basically in a straight line trying to get to that trench, so many people are dying. It was very gory, but also it puts you in the perspective of how many people died just trying to get to that first trench, just right out the gate.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
And to even see all of that happening in front of you and not pick up a gun, that was a statement before the war started. But then, like, during the war, and even when Desmond was the only one up there and still not picking up a rifle or a gun to protect himself, that says something.
That's true faith right there. Yeah, I didn't think of that, how scary it had to be for him being unarmed and questioning his choices when he's on top of the ridge.
If someone was shot beside me or it was visible to me, I'd want to pick up a gun and protect myself. Like, 100%. I wouldn't want to be like, I don't want to be like that.
No, agreed.
Desmond developed tuberculosis. Damn it. Tuberculosis. Okay. In 1946. I said it right at one of those points.
You're in charge.
The illness would cause him to spend the next 6 years in the hospital. 5 ribs and a lung were removed during that time. He also went deaf and had his hearing restored. Desmond Thomas Tommy Doss Jr. was born on September 15th, 1946. Tommy would be the only child of Desmond and Dorothy.
In 1862, Abraham Lincoln established the Medal of Honor after the Civil War. On the 100th anniversary in 1962, Desmond was elected to represent the Medal of Honor recipients. He met President John F. Kennedy and attended a ceremony at the White House. Dorothy was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1982. She would undergo treatments for the rest of her life. On November 17, 1991, Desmond and Dorothy were on their way to one of her treatments when they lost control of the car. The car flipped and Dorothy was killed. She was 70 years old.
This is so sad.
It's really tragic.
Desmond remarried in 1993 to Frances Duman. Frances would write a book about Desmond titled Desmond Doss, Conscientious Objector.
I thought this was funny because Desmond didn't like to be called a conscientious objector. Instead, he called himself a conscientious cooperator.
Right. Maybe just in his late years of age, he was like, I'm fine with it.
Maybe. It's your second wife. He found love again. He's just going to be zen about it.
Also, the fact that he got remarried at that age.
Yeah.
You go, Desi.
You go, Desi. Find love at 74.
Desmond died on March 23, 2006, at 87 years old. He is buried at National Cemetery in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Dorothy and Frances are also buried at the National Cemetery with Desmond.
I thought that was really sweet that all 3 of them were together there.
Yeah.
It looks like Dorothy and Frances actually share a plot with a tombstone, like they share the tombstone as well.
Wow. Frances, it seems like she respected Desmond and Dorothy quite a bit.
Yeah, I would think so as well. To marry him when he was 74 years old and try and pick up the pieces there. So she was with him for, over 10 years, 13, 14 years. We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new Corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye!
Bye!